From Chesapeake, Virginia, the Lighthouse 100.1 presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Now here is Greg Bicouvaris.
Sports Scene presented by Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com. Sports Scene midweek online, Saturday on the radio and WPMH. AM 1010, 100.1 FM, and tunein.com by typing WPMH in the search bar. Greg Bicouvaris along with Colleen. Tell your friends about Sports Scene. Twitter at Greg Bick, and you can see the rest of my Twitter handles on gjbtv.com. Thank you to our military and first responders 24/7. Guest lineup presented by the Newport News Greek Festival.org, August 28th through August 30th, a drive-through edition. Phone line presented by Fink's Car Care in Portsmouth, gjbtv.com. NBA is going well. Major League Baseball, of course, no fans. Golf, NASCAR, we shall see about football. I'm very, very skeptical. Also had a chance to play my mom's Memorial Tennis Tournament, beat my fellow church mate Chris Zambis 7-6, 8-6. Thank you for Chris playing. Our 20th anniversary. You can see all the results on gjbtv.com in the tennis tournament section. Yay, I won. Great interviews, excellent guests, business segments, highlights, commentary, what teased me off. Thank you for listening to Sports Scene. We love our regulars, tourists who listen online and on the radio. Stay tuned. The Newport News Greek Festival will take place August 28th through August 30th on the grounds of Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church. The entire event will be a drive-through edition, and we appreciate your continued support. Eat, drink, and celebrate authentic Greek culture on the peninsula. Celebrating a taste of Greece in Newport News with our drive-through. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org. Opa!
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bicouvaris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us at Greg Bick on Twitter. Sports Scene every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, AM and FM, WPMH, tunein.com. Type in WPMH in the search bar, and of course, share it on YouTube and Twitter and social media. A pleasure to be joined by Mike Corey from ESPN, longtime talent there, former voice of Delaware on the radio. Mike, how are you?
Hey, good, Greg. How you doing, man?
Very good. I guess I met you during the CAA days when we were both doing radio. Tell us how you've evolved before and after, and what are you up to today?
Yeah, it's been quite the time. I mean, I was just thinking about it the other day. I mean, it goes by so fast. I mean, I was talking to somebody actually from the CAA the other day, and it's been probably a good, good 8 years, maybe at least, from since doing stuff with them back in 2011, 2012. But yeah, since then, I've just been on ESPN doing TV, college football, basketball, lacrosse. It's going pretty well. Obviously, we're dealing with all this right now, which is unfortunate, but just keep our head down and stay positive, and I'm sure we'll be back to, the way we envisioned it, the way we expect it to be. Of course, with, some new protocols and measures that hopefully will make everybody's life better, but it's just kind of a waiting game right now.
Just amazing. I remember working with you last year during the Florida State game, and then most recently I worked in March at UVA, but if somebody would have told me March 7th, that would have been the last game for a while, I would not have believed it. I know they tried the ACC tournament and just everything kind of collapsed, but it's been a very interesting 5 months here, Mike, on and off the sports fields, I guess for you as well personally.
Yeah, no, it has. I mean, I was just thinking about that the other day about the NCAA tournament. I just still can't believe that, the tournament was canceled. I mean, I can because of everything, but I'm just saying, they're not making that up. That's gone. It's we'll never get to see what would have happened. I feel so bad for all the kids that, you work your butt off to get to that point. You're a senior. That's the team, but then that team will never be recreated, so it really stinks. So I feel really, really bad for those people. And I feel bad for anybody right now that's from a senior in high school, that would have basically graduated or did graduate this year. I mean, that was the most fun, one of the best years of my life, I remember, which was going back now, but 1995. I mean, that was the graduated senior year of high school and obviously into the freshman year of college. I mean, what a amazing year, and a transition that I'll never forget. And unfortunately, everybody now during this time is not going to have that experience, and that that makes me upset. Like, I feel bad because I know how important it was to me. So, yeah, I mean, but it's going to get better. I mean, we know it will. I just think it's going to be 2021 before, things really start to kind of get back to normal. And I know everybody keeps calling this new normal. Like, I get it. I mean, it's going to be normal next year, I would hope to think, when there's a vaccine and things are good. And, I just hope there'll be better measures. Like, hey, we should be washing our hands more. We should be being better with hygiene. We should take better care of ourselves and people around us in restaurants and bars and places and keep it cleaner, So if that's the case and all that comes out of this, I think that's going to be a good thing. Obviously it's not great right now, and, but we'll keep forging on.
You're exactly right. We missed so much, but the good thing is sports is coming back. Some college football games, of course, are starting to get placed, but as of course, dates and everything else, TV times, that's still to be continued. But at least we've seen Major League Baseball, we've seen NASCAR, we've seen soccer, we're seeing NBA and hockey being in play. What are your general thoughts about the college football season as far as reality of being placed as far as actual games? Some teams here that you and I have worked locally at Hampton University, they're not even playing football this fall. So it's already affecting some schools already.
Right. There's a bunch of leagues that have already just canceled, said, yeah, we're not playing anything, which, I get it. I understand. But, I think the big, FBS football, I mean, they're going to play. They have to. It is unfortunate, though. I don't know what the heck they're going to do in terms of fans and how many people are going to get in there. I think some of them are saying, 50% capacity or 25. It's like, okay. I mean, it's kind of like we're all saying, yeah, we're back. We're going to do it. Yeah, we're in. We've approved the schedule. It's like, yet nobody really has any idea how it's going to work, or how it's going to play out, which I'm a little bit scared about. Like, I mean, when does camp open? I mean, when are they practicing? What are we going to do when more people get it, and more cases? I mean, and then that's all what we're going to be talking about all year. It's going to be about this. It's unfortunately not going to be about the players on the field or what team's better or who should have won or, it's just not. It's not going to be a normal year. We know that. So I'm excited and said, yeah, that's great. We're going to play. Then it's like, all right, well, what are the particulars here? And I know you can't give everything out right this second because we don't know it, but it is a little interesting. Conference games only, this and that. Okay, but there's so many questions to be asked. And on the broadcasting side, I mean, are we going to be there? Are we going to do it from the studio? Are we going to do half the people there, half the people from back in the studio? I mean, there's all these different things you can do to stay safe, to be, in compliance with everything and, not put people at risk. But I didn't even know the answers to that either. I just had a call with one of our guys yesterday from ESPN, and he didn't really have much information to tell me either. He's like, hey, I'm reading the same thing you're reading. And, once the schedules all come together, and I think once they know who's playing who and when, then we'll probably figure out, well, who's going to go do it. And how are they going to go there? Or are they going to go there? And what channel is it going to be on? I mean, there's so many questions. It's like, it's crazy.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Talking to Mike Corey from ESPN, Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us right here on WPMH, AM and FM, tunein.com. Type in WPMH every Saturday from 10 to 11 because Fox has already done that at the Major League Baseball level. They've had their announcers on different parts of the country. You've seen the Korean baseball in the morning with the announcers basically at home or in the studio. You've seen Sunday night baseball with Matt Viscarian and, of course, A-Rod, doing it from a studio. So my question, that's baseball, 1 or 2 or 3 random games. But what is the NFL going to do when you have half a dozen games on Fox, half a dozen games on CBS? Are they all going to be in little portable studios? You've actually done Remy broadcasts. Tell the fans the highs and lows of that.
Yeah, well, first, just real quick about the NFL there. I mean, their booths are the best. I mean, they're so big, so I think they could actually have the announcers there. I mean, you can spread everybody out enough to, be there. But again, if they're not going to really interact with too many players or coaches, this would be the time to, if you wanted to keep everybody back in the studio to do it, I never really enjoyed that as much when we were playing normal because I'd like to go talk to the coaches. I want to go talk to the players. I want to be there. I want to be able to see other stuff. When you do a game just from the studio, it's basically one-sided. Like, I mean, you can only say what you're seeing and the pictures that they are showing you on the screen. You catch me? Like, if you're at the game and I see you, I said, oh, look at Greg. Looks like he's upset about that last play. The cameramen hear me, and then they shoot it. And then the director says, oh, take that shot. So they're following us, and we're following them. So it's back and forth. You know, I'm talking about what they show, but then I could say some other stuff and say, hey, get the camera on this, and they can do it. When you're in a studio, you don't have that luxury because you can't see the whole field. You can't see anything else that's going on. You can only see what's being shown, you know, and so you're just basically like you and I at home on the couch watching it on TV and calling the game. So we don't have as much, you know, direction there or ability to do different things. However, it's slightly, I'll say, in a way, easier because you're not distracted as much. You're only watching what everybody else is watching. Like, how many times do you watch a game at home and the fans are like, oh, dude, he's in. What are you doing? What are you looking at? It's like, well, he might have his mind somewhere else, his eyes looking somewhere else, the guy's talking in his ear. There's like 20 different things going on, so it's not as easy when you're actually there. So that's what the differences are. Now, we've also done some games where I've been on site, like with football, and some of our crew members have been back at the studio, and that's just it's a cost-saving thing, but it actually works out fine when the game matches up, you know, pretty well. I mean, if you have a little bit of a delay, sometimes we run into a little bit of a delay with our monitors because the signal goes back and forth, and that just presents a little bit of a challenge. But that's not for fans to worry about or think about. That's just for us. But those are things that we go through. I mean, that's what it takes to put broadcasts on, and now there's a variety of ways to do it.
I guess, you know, with the Olympics and other sports and even regular sporting events, that you guys have had practice doing Remy's before, well before the pandemic, years and years ago of a regular practice. So at least it's not totally, you know, foreign to you. But I tell you what's difficult is when you have, let's say, an NFL or college booth, their size is a difference, of course, but not to mention you got a statistician, you got some spotters, you got a stage manager, you might have an A2, a camera person. The whole point of, you know, 6 feet apart is going to be very difficult. And do you really want to expose announcers to different various cities every week? That's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely right. You know, so I think they're going to try to think about keeping people more local, or if they can drive to the game, or if they're, like I said, if they're not going to the game, they're going to the studio. Because, it is difficult to have. I mean, my brother is my spotter. Like, he's standing right next to me. Like, I can't have the spotter 6 feet apart. Like, how's he going to point to the board or tell me who did what if he can't see it? You know, that's kind of defeats the purpose of that. And the same with the statistician. That's okay. They're usually a little bit away from us, and they just kind of hold up a card or, you know, a little whiteboard or something, so I'm okay with that. But, you know, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's I get it. I want to follow all the guidelines. I want to do the right thing, and I wish most people would be doing that. Like, it's not that hard to wear your mask, you know, and be safe and try to stay away from people as much as possible. I get it. I mean, and I want to do that. So if we can't, and that's, you know, against policy, then I don't, you know, we shouldn't be going there. We shouldn't be doing it. I'll be honest, I did a couple lacrosse games last week, these high school games in Maryland, that they got these teams together, and it was a tournament that's done every year, and we went to go do it, and we broadcasted it, and there was only 4 of us in the booth, and we're all 6 feet apart. And it was me, the clock operator, statistician, and then my analyst was all the way down to the other end of the booth. And it worked out fine. I mean, we were wearing our masks the whole time. I mean, I took it off to do the game, but then they're right back on when the headset's off, you know, and I thought everybody followed all the guidelines, all the protocols, and it went really well. So I was just wanting to pass that on, that, you know, if it's done right, it could be done and we can do it, you know, so let's be confident of that, but you have to follow the rules. I mean, I just was so upset with when all this stuff started to open back up again a month and a half ago, like we all were, and we see all the cases go back up. It's like, no, everything's opening up for us to follow the rules and guidelines so we can actually do these things, but not make the situation worse. And unfortunately, you know, we did that in this country.
Right, and that was high school lacrosse, like you mentioned, but what about these big college NFL games that have multiple trucks, multiple people, multiple cameramen, multiple wiring. There's so much to be considered. I think baseball's done a really good job with it, even though the Marlins had some issues. I think the NBA's off to a great start with the bubble, but I'm kind of wondering, Mike, about that whole bubble. It's worked out very well so far for the NBA. Everybody's in one city, Orlando. Could they have maybe done that with the NFL? Let's say been in Texas and had games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. College football, I know you can't do that, but it seems like professional sports, you have a little bit more control. And, of course, the NBA has shown that. It's worked out very well.
Yeah, that'd be a lot for football. I agree with you. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can have hotels and places where they can all be, but I mean, it's asking a lot. I mean, and you know, it's tough with the no fans and the experience. I don't know what they're going to say. Like I said, there's so many questions still to be answered. We all know. I don't think we're going to be really starting on time. I mean, I think there's some conferences and leagues like, oh yeah, we're playing August 29th. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even understand that. Like, are the players in there? Are we practicing? Are we doing anything? Like, I mean, how are we going to be ready to go do a game or whatever? I mean, that's a mad scramble. I mean, you're right. The NBA did it well. They're like, all right, we're doing this, and then they took the time to put it together, and they did it, and that's pretty admirable. You know, I mean, that's a great job. Yeah, NFL too. I don't know. I wonder what their policies are going to be in the situation. They've canceled the preseason, a couple preseason games. We get that, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens. It's kind of a shame. I mean, you got the brand new stadium there in Vegas, right? You got the brand new stadium in LA, and what is there going to be? Nobody there? I mean, to start off, I mean, it's $1 billion stadium. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like that joke when you hear crickets in the background. That's pretty much what it's been like. I'm not a big fan of piped-in noise or cardboard fans or digital fans. I like it organic. You know, some teams like the Nationals are pretty much leaving it organic and clean, while others are, you know, adding fans and adding cardboards. I'm just not a big fan of that.
No, me either. That's kind of cheesy to me. The noise, though, I need that. I mean, when I'm doing a game, so it's like I thought. Well, I've been a big Red Sox fan, so I watched them, and I thought they'd done a really nice job at Fenway of like what noise they pipe in. It honestly sounds like it's a regular game there. Like they did a really good job. I'm like, I kind of need that on the baseball or any broadcast for that matter. So that I get. The cardboard stuff and whatever. That's just ridiculous. I mean, you know, it's like why would I want to pay money to put my thing up there? And it just, I don't know, I just feel like people are laughing at us, you know, it's kind of stupid. Sometimes you go to great lengths to try to make it look like whatever, and you just make yourself look, you know, worse, you know, or kind of cheesy. So that, to me, I agree, that's just dumb. But yeah, the noise, you got to have the noise. You got to have it for the players, you got to have it for the broadcast. I mean, it just got to be there. That would make it ridiculous. Like, that would make it, I don't know, that, to me, I'd be like, this is weird. But at least if you get some noise and it sounds organic and regular, you know, then you're okay.
Right, and I kind of agree with that last comment Mike made, because when you do a TV commercial, you have a score behind it, and it sounds a lot better. Movies would not be the same without a score, and pretty much it's the same for sporting events. All right, we're going to come back with part 2 with Mike Corey on Sports Scene after these messages.
When it comes to automobile service in Hampton Roads, Fink's Car Care is the destination locals have counted on for decades. Family owned and operated, they specialize in transmission service, oil changes, state inspection, radiator service, tires, alignments, and showcase Win Automotive products. Fink's does it all. Military and senior discounts are available. Like them on Facebook and visit them at 2711 Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 485-5555 today. Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
All right, welcome back to Sports Scene Part 2 with Mike Corey from ESPN. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us, at Greg Bick on Twitter. Before we continue, Mike, are you big into social media or promoting yourself on Twitter and so forth?
Yeah, I'm on there. It's at Mike Corey Sports.
Very good, very good. So how has your summer been, first of all, away from broadcasting? You, like you mentioned, you did some lacrosse games.
Yeah, I did a little bit last week, a couple of games down in Maryland. That was great. I mean, other than that, it's really, I've been off kind of like you have. You know, March 6th, I think, was my last game, and I kind of just packed the bags up and, you know, hadn't really grabbed them since. But, no, summer's going very well. We're doing the best we can. Got a 21-month-year-old daughter, and she's been awesome, and she's loving loving life, and thank God we'll have no idea about this time period, but it's been good. Everything's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, luckily my advertising agency, we do a lot of radio and TV commercials and media buying. So thank goodness. And you find out what businesses are really essential too, Mike. A lot of the outdoor businesses or like deck companies are thriving, while restaurants, as you know, have been a big issue. How's it been for you and your wife and family as far as going to the restaurants in the local area?
No, thanks. Pretty good. We're not. We just do a bunch of takeout. I mean, we'll go and grab a different restaurant once in a while and grab food from there. We haven't gone out anywhere. We're not doing that. I'll hit the grocery store, of course, to do that kind of stuff. But, and a few other stores. I mean, like the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, I mean, you're right. Those, they're not affected, which is, everybody's there. I mean, you got to get stuff. You got to get supplies. But that's about it. I mean, I'm not in a hurry to go back and do stuff that, I know I would like to do or want to do, or just because they're like, well, we're open now. It's like, and I don't want to not contribute or help these places because, we don't want to see anybody go under. But I want to do it with the experience that we're normally used to having, so just be like, all right, the restaurant's open. They're like, well, I don't want to go out to the restaurant because first off, I don't think we should just be out without our masks on. I don't care whether we're outside or not. So to me, I don't think that's good, so I'd rather, just get takeout, or eat at home, or until someday when it is safer, then I'll go and I won't wear my mask. I mean, you have to have your mask off to eat or drink or whatever. So to me, and again, not to not want to support the restaurants, but I'm not going to do that for a while, or any other place that's open right now, just to, hey, we'll go do this, but you got to follow these 18 steps. I get it, but, and who's, vacations, right? It's tough. You got to spend the same amount of money to go and have 80% less experience based on all the guidelines and the rules and regulations. Like, I don't know, but nobody wants to stay home all the time either, so I get it.
No, I totally agree. I think going to the grocery store, especially in March, April, and May, was a chore as far as staying 6-10 feet apart. You get some hostility there, but it's better than going to a closed building for 2 hours and hearing people cough and so forth. I really feel sorry for movie theaters, Mike. It's going to be a long time before they get back to normal.
Yeah, no, it will. It really, it's and then unfortunately, everything that's happened, like you don't get this back. You know what I'm saying? It's like people that lost money doing jobs that they would have had this, they would have had that. And like the NCAA tournament or whatever, it's like it's all gone. Like you don't get it back. Like when it does come back, it's like, all right, well now you get back starting from that point, and you get whatever you get, and it's sort of normal. Not really, but the other stuff is just gone. You lost it. Like and that's tough. That's tough to take.
Absolutely, because, like we said, I mean, baseball's shortened, everything is shortened, so you really don't know. The Nationals won the World Series in 2019. They might not even make the postseason in 2020 based on this short, condensed season. And you see teams like the Orioles, who've always struggled the last several years, who got off to a pretty good start. So you really can't base it because it's not normal. It's not 162 games. Like Mike said, we didn't have an NCAA tournament. We'll never know if Virginia would have repeated. That's the sad part, that these college athletes and high school athletes, there's no high school football in Virginia this fall at all. So it's really been superseded by this COVID.
Yeah, no, it has. We missed a few more weeks there with the hoop, or to do it a little bit sooner or something, but then obviously you couldn't do any of that. But just missed out on all that, which is unfortunate. But yeah, hey, we'll just try to keep a positive attitude, and that's all you can do. There's going to be a vaccine soon. There's going to be positive news coming. Things are going to get better. We all know they will. I mean, it will. We just don't have all the answers right now, and a lot of uncertainty is difficult. But I also, read a line that said from a book. It said, "Embrace the uncertainty." Although there's a lot of questions and anxiety and whatever, there's also a lot of good that could come from it too. Like when once we figure out what's going on and the uncertainty is gone, there's going to be great stuff. We're going to be excited about things. So you got to look at it in that perspective as well.
Absolutely. Talking to Mike Corey, final few moments here with Mike. Thank you for his time, his talent, and his treasure as well. Mike, I got to ask you a little light humor stuff here. You've been a long-time Patriots fan, no Tom Brady. You've seen other quarterbacks in the past that have done that, like Joe Montana, Burt Jones did it. I mean, Johnny Unitas went to the Chargers his last year or so. I mean, it hasn't always worked out. Not to mention quarterbacks, running backs like Franco Harris went from the Steelers to the Seahawks. It's tough to do that, and you kind of wonder why the Patriots and them could not all come together, especially when they had more time during the offseason, I guess. But whatever is meant to be is meant to be. But this should be interesting how the Tampa Bay will do and how the Patriots will do.
Well, yeah, and once again, it's like it's kind of like a little bit of a mulligan, to be honest with you, because of all the stuff that's going on. It's not really going to be a regular, normal season. So whoever does what, whoever wins, whatever, I'm going to just kind of chalk it up to say, I'm not going to say, oh, you don't deserve it or whatever, but it's not regular the way we would expect it. Nobody's been practicing. You're not with half your team. Who knows about the travel? Who knows about all the situations? Again, they're going to be worried more about this and trying to follow the guidelines and do all these things than they probably are in getting ready to play football. You know what I mean? So it's just not, I know, we want to do it, but again, it's not going to be like we would normally expect. So to be honest with you, I'm not even really worried about it. Like, as a Patriots fan, it's like, yeah, I have no ill will towards Purdy whatsoever. I mean, he was there for 20 years. 6 Super Bowls. The guy's unbelievable. I mean, who knows what the reasons were behind it. Sometimes you want to change, right? I mean, sometimes we've been at a place for, a long time. I mean, 30 years, maybe he just wants to check something else out and, get his house in Florida, and that's where he's going to retire. Who the hell knows, you know what I mean? It's
right.
We can be disappointed, but you can't be upset at the guy. You can't be like, what the heck's your problem? Like, I still find it hard to believe only because I honestly thought he would finish his career in New England. I'm like, oh, he would never do that. Like, but we've seen all these other people do it, so it's not out of the norm. But I'm just like, really, Brady? I'm like, man, I just thought he'd finish it there in New England, and that was it. When he was done, he was done. But I don't fault him. I mean, we've all made decisions and moves and left places or whatever. It's just that this is such a high profile and the best of all time that we're like, oh, what's the deal here? But no, I'll cheer for him for sure. Like, I almost kind of want to see Tampa do well. You know what I mean? I'll cheer for them. Of course, I'm going to cheer for the Patriots, but it's such a weird year. And the Patriots don't even have half their guys. Like, there's like 8 guys opting out, their entire secondary, for heaven's sake. So I don't even, it's like a mulligan. Like, seriously, I'm watching the Red Sox, and, they have great hitting. They got some great players, but they're not playing well. They have no pitching. They're just going to try people out this season and try to get them in a game experience and just get ready for next year, to be honest with you. Like, do we really expect it, or are we going to be upset if they don't do well in this 60-game, kind of messed up season? Like, I don't know. Like, whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it's almost like minor league baseball, too. There is no minor league baseball, so you're saying a mix of minor Major League Baseball. But you brought up a great point, a really good point. The older we get, the more entrenched we're in broadcasting and in our lives. You got a family, of course. We all have families as well, that in our day-to-day minutia during this COVID, that a lot of fans will always ask you who's your favorite team, who you're rooting for. They have to realize we're neutral. We don't root for anybody when we're in the body of a campus or the body of a sports arena. We are very neutral. That's why we're professional. A lot of fans still don't understand that. They'll ask you who you're rooting for, what's your favorite team. I said I was a Dolphins and Redskins fan when I was a kid, but now I've been neutral as an adult since college. And a lot of times fans don't get it. And people have lives. When LeBron moved to Miami, he was an adult. He made a decision. Only in sports will people get upset about it, because in life we change jobs all the time and move,
right,
and we're always on the go.
Right. Nobody's, tweeting at you about why you left your whatever job or to move on to something else. I mean, it's like, it really is. It's crazy. But that's what comes with the territory, right? I mean, they're in the public and they do that, and we expect certain things for some reason, even though we have no reason to do that because it's not our lives. But it is interesting. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Final few moments with Mike Corey. And Mike, away from broadcasting, as far as your day to day, of course, you're busy with your kids and so forth. How are you staying prepared when the time comes as well? And do you have any inkling what your college football schedule would possibly be like?
No, not really. Not at all. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I'm waiting to kind of hear what they say when the schedule comes out. Like, I was just talking to one of our my friends that worked with us in the booth, one of our stage manager people, and I said to him, I go, do you know how difficult it is during the regular year of last year or any year prior for our crew and our staff to schedule people for the games that we have and where they need to go and all the different things they got to deal with. I go, that's already a tough deal that they spend hours and hours and hours every week. I'm talking like, hey, Bob's got to go to this game because then he's got another game on Sunday. Mike's going to go to this thing. So-and-so's off this week. This guy can't go here. He needs to be whatever. We want this guy on this game. There's a million things for them to figure out on a regular basis. I can't even imagine what they're going to try to do with this when they don't even know what the schedule is, who's available, who's comfortable to travel. Are we going to that game? Are we doing that from the studio? Like, there's 20 million more questions. So, like, if there's ever a year where you need to be understanding and, like, have a little bit of patience with everything and not even complain one bit, this is the year. Like, I almost feel like I'll never really be upset, or not even upset, but, like, you know, whatever about whatever assignment I get in the future, because when it's all taken away from you, you know, like this year, and then you have nothing, you know, you'd be happy just to do whatever you're doing, you know what I mean? So I'm ready. I mean, I've got, you know, I did a lot of, like, kind of, not house cleaning per se, but I mean, like, general life house cleaning, you know, like, do I need this? Do I need to do this? How can I do this better? Maybe I get rid of some stuff. How do I, you know, be more efficient? I mean, I've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So when the season does come, you know, I think I'm going to be pretty ready to go in terms of whatever I got to do and where I got to go. And then it's just the normal preparation, although it's not going to be normal. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to prepare, what we got to do. And, you know, call a game and try to provide some entertainment, you know, for people who would like to have a little bit of a break from all this, you know, and just kind of watch sports. So I'm glad we're going to try to get it going in one fashion or another.
Right, and I think everybody needs to realize we're all sacrificing for the greater good. Last thing, NFL schedules are coming out in April. They're pretty much set, but of course that could change based on the commissioner and COVID. You know, college football, they normally get the full schedule around May or June, you know, and then the college basketball schedule normally comes out in October. So like Mike said, this is going to be a totally different random year. You've got crews or Mike's crew that might work a college game on a Saturday, work an NFL game the next day. That happens, folks. So please be patient. This is going to be a different year, Mike.
It is. It really is. And you know, like I said, it's kind of with everything that changes on a weekly, daily, you know, daily first, then weekly, then monthly basis. You just have to be flexible. Like, and this is certainly a lesson in flexibility. And we will. So, like I said, if we talk like in 2 weeks, our conversation is drastically different than today. If we talk in a month, I'm sure it's going to be even different, you know, so that's what the whole lesson of all this is. And at some point, you know, there'll be a vaccine. We'll have a lot more confidence. We'll be more secure to go out and do what we need to do, and hopefully we'll prevent this, you know, and keep people safe and, you know, stop all this that's happening, because it's upsetting. It's frustrating, but we'll stay positive and we'll make it work.
Mike, thank you for your time today and enjoying us on Sports Scene as well, and all the best to you and your family for the rest of the summer and the early part of fall, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Greg, man. You too. Thanks again. Always good to catch up with you.
Yep, all the best in health and happiness. Mike Corey from ESPN, one of the best. Sports Scene will continue after these messages. The Newport News Greek Festival will take place August 28th through August 30th on the grounds of Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church. The entire event will be a drive-through edition, and we appreciate your continued support. Eat, drink, and celebrate authentic Greek culture on the peninsula. Celebrating a taste of Greece in Newport News with our drive-through. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org. Opa!
It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
Highlights, gjbtv.com, hrsmhof.com, HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com, gjbtv.com. Click the YouTube link on the homepage for archived audio and video, including Sports Scene. Question of the day, presented by the Newport News Greek Festival, to our esteemed general manager, Colleen, and producer. Colleen, when you do lose power in general, are you able to sleep, especially during a hurricane when you hear wind, noise, lots of rain?
If the power's out, it's hard to sleep because then the heat, it's hot with no air conditioning and you're worried about different things like that. But if the electricity is still on, I can usually sleep.
How about if you lose power during the winter?
Oh goodness! And then it's going to be cold and dark and hard to.
You need a flashlight, folks.
That's for sure.
It's still all these apps that we have in computers. You still need a flashlight. Sports Scene will continue after these messages.
When it comes to automobile service in Hampton Roads, Fink's Car Care is the destination locals have counted on for decades. Family owned and operated, they specialize in transmission service, oil changes, state inspection, radiator service, tires, alignments, and showcase Win Automotive products. Fink's does it all. Military and senior discounts are available. Like them on Facebook and visit them at 2711 Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 485-5555 today. You are listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Now, back to Greg.
And welcome back to Sports Scene right here on WPMH AM and FM, 100.1 FM, 1010 AM, every Saturday morning from 10 to 11. Always archived on YouTube and social media. Always a pleasure to talk to George McClain. George, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Greg. How about yourself?
Very well. We're in hurricane season. Thank goodness it's over. We had a little slight scare, but I'll lead off with that, George. And another good example how guns thrive during power outages, that when you have no power at your house, whether it's summer, winter, spring, or fall, for multiple days, multiple hours, when you're hot, when you're miserable, the criminal intent also knows you're very vulnerable at that moment as well.
Well, true. So the biggest thing there is obviously you're providing security for your property, and common sense plays a large role in that. And so I don't advocate anyone getting too carried away with things. None of your security cameras typically are working if you have any, but it's just whoever is on the property, whether it's your business or your private residence, is to make sure that all occupants that are there are cognizant of what's going on around them, that they keep an open eye, be suspicious of anything, check it out, strange noises that you may hear, and that may be car doors, it may be voices, it may be whatever, that if you got someone that if everyone is accounted for, within the dwelling, then check out where the other sounds are coming from.
Talking to George McClain on Sports Scene. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us. And of course, on social media, you guys are on Facebook, The Marksman as well. George McClain is the owner of The Marksman in Newport News. That there are a lot of watchdog groups, whether it's Nextdoor, the Hilton Greater Network, different neighborhood, kind of like Crime Stoppers, watchdogs that are kind of like preventing things. They might see a vagrant at an empty shopping center walking a neighborhood. And one thing, too, about social media that's good, George, is everybody's got an alert on. They don't take things for granted. And usually when you come together as a group, that can stop sometimes some negativity as well.
Well, that's exactly right. One of the big things for neighborhoods, almost every neighborhood has a neighborhood watch program, but you can get smaller microcosms, if you will, of that. Where I live, the cul-de-sac and a couple of surrounding neighbors of the street that adjoins the cul-de-sac, we all have our cell phone, and we all have exchange phone numbers, and we message. So if there's something that needs to be transmitted out to anyone that's in those 7 or 8 families that's there, it goes out in a message from any one of us if we think it's important, and everyone gets it, so we can stay in pretty close communication. So if there's a strange vehicle or strange goings on, something that's just out of the the normal, we can say, hey, this is happening out front. You may want to keep an eye out, and so it kind of keeps everybody on the alert.
You're exactly right, and not to mention the biggest issue before or after a storm, or when it gets dark early at 5 o'clock, or whenever the season is, because people take vacations year round, especially during the summertime, is no trespassing, and that is always relevant.
Absolutely, yes.
You can't just trespass.
The same thing. If someone's going out of town for anything, more than and overnight, everyone knows about it. All of our neighbors right here in right here in this little tight community, and so if there is trespassing going on, if you see things going on that they haven't mentioned, someone's going to be coming out and doing work or whatever, then it's time it needs to get investigated.
And that's a good and bad thing too. Obviously, I think you should just tell your neighbors organically by the phone or texting. Don't put on vacation notice on Facebook, hey, I'm taking a week off, I'll be in Florida, because that can go into the wrong hands and keyboards.
Yes, no, you're exactly right. When I say messaging,
sure,
we're doing the text message,
right?
So nothing gets posted on Facebook or on any of the Instagram or any of the other sites like that. This is just a private group text message, if you will. And so the only people that can see that are the ones that's in possession of those individual cell phones.
Right. You talk to different gun owners, and some will say they have a gun right at the front door during any negative times. But really, George, this has been a lot for the public to consume this year. Not only we had a pretty normal first couple months in January and February. It has not been normal since March. And now you've got a pandemic, of course, like we mentioned. You've had weather issues. Weather issues are always going to be around no matter what year it is. But to add all that on top of each other, during 100-degree weather has not been easy. And really, I guess the biggest thing for the consumer out there is just to adapt and try to be as patient and flexible as possible.
Well, very, very true. I think one of the bigger motivators, if you will, of bad acts was the fact that when the pandemic initially started, a lot of the not only grocery stores but the department stores, everyone was running out of inventory. And anytime that happens, you're going to have people that are going to take advantage of other people to get what they don't have. So if they can't buy it at a store, you're going to have some bad folks out there that's going to try to break into garages or businesses or your house and rob what you have because they want it and they don't have it.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in Yorktown, and we were joking about that show Extreme Preppers a few years ago, but those guys and gals, they're smart. They were prepping for COVID or prepping for anything, any natural disasters or whatever. Now, obviously to the generic person out there, you don't want to put too much in your refrigerator if you don't have a generator. But like George said, essentials were hard to get at the stores, even post office, any premium goods that you needed were tough, even to get change at a store, George. I'd never thought it would be difficult. Now you see some stores rounding off money because they don't have enough change to give you back.
Right. Yep. Very true. Yeah, it was, we've seen some of the best out of folks and we've seen some of the worst out of folks.
Yeah.
So, my best advice is, be prepared. Again, be suspicious of what goes on and have a way to defend yourself, whether that's with a firearm or non-lethal sprays of some type. But you kind of need to do a self-inventory and make sure that you have a way to protect your property and your family. And hopefully you'll never need it. But you've heard me say, Greg, as well, many, many times that it's better to have something and never need it, never use it, than the other way around, wishing you had it, then you don't have it. Or you really needed it. It's a life and death situation, and you have no way to protect yourself. So I'd rather be prepared and never need it.
Talking to George McClain, the owner of the Marksman. And George, you almost have it in your car as well. You almost need it because people are on the road so much.
Yeah, absolutely. But after this July 1, all these new laws went into effect. So you need to be aware of these law changes with firearms, and in the localities where you cannot have a firearm now. So it just got crazy, and it's going to cause a lot of consternation for a lot of folks until everything gets ironed out. But it's a setup for a lot of people to get in trouble. So you're going to need to do your homework before you travel from one spot to another with a a firearm.
Yeah, emotional and physical cleansing. When we've had COVID, we've had civil unrest, we've had hurricanes, we've had people filing unemployment, some good and bad, some worthy, some not worthy. So we've had a lot to digest here in the first 8 months of 2020. So what are the people now processing when they walk into the Marksman? Of course, you've had some adjusted hours. I know you're trying to get back to normal. What are the biggest needs now when people are walking into the Marksman?
Well, everyone's kind of looking for ammo, depending on the caliber. That typically runs in short supply, but it's hot and cold. I say it's warm and cold. I don't think it's gotten back to being hot yet, no matter what caliber you are. But sometimes we have fairly good selection, and then once we have it, that typically runs out fairly quickly. And so we try to keep some on hand for our range, customers, because obviously, our customers come into the range. If they don't have any ammo to shoot, we not only lose the ammo sale, but we lose the range rental, part of the business. So we have to maintain, some ammo for that. And but it's a unique balancing act, and so we try to do our best. And I'm sure some people get dissatisfied with how we do things, but the flow of the business really dictates that. It's not that we're trying to be mean to everybody. Our goal is the inverse of that, where we're trying to be fair to everybody.
Right,
and that's a challenge.
George, of course, what are your thoughts about AR-15s?
Well, it's no worse than any other semi-automatic firearm. Mm-hmm. It's not an assault weapon. It gets that from its military brother, if you will, but that's a whole different animal. It shoots the same ammo, but it's a whole different setup. So is it needed? I don't know. Is a 30-06 really needed? It's a firearm that's made to do a job, whether you're sport shooting, whether you're hunting, or whether you use it for self-defense. Mm-hmm. Any firearm can be used in an illegal manner, and why the AR is historically you'll see that a lot, but it's not in all cases. A lot of times they don't go with a long gun. The bad folks will use a handgun. So you see a lot of Glocks being used illegally. Does that mean that we need to take Glocks off the market? No, it means we need to capture these guys and get them off the street. It's never the tool that's being used. It's the person that has hold of the tool, whether it's a hammer or a saw or a firearm of any kind. So you can get rid of all the guns, as some countries have. Does not stop crime. Does not stop murders. You can look at England, and a lot of that area over there. Their big thing was knives, because they'd outlawed firearms. We get a lot of Europeans come in on vacation. They want to come in and rent a firearm and get some instruction and shoot, because they never have. They're not the guns are illegal in their country, and so they get to experience that. But they still have murders, because the bad folks are going to find a way to do it. If they want to do it badly enough, they'll find a way.
You mentioned rentals, George. Talk about the pros and cons of rentals.
Well, the pro, when you can. Well, let me preface that with the COVID stuff. We have stopped renting firearms simply because of the governor's order that anything that a customer touches like that has to be disinfected. And you cannot continuously disinfect the firearm without ruining the finish of that firearm. Mm-hmm. So it just doesn't make sense to do that. But we can wipe it down, and we typically do, and clean it. But when you talk about disinfecting, now you have to have something like a bleach or alcohol that's going to kill germs versus removing dirt and grime. So that becomes kind of a non-starter for us. So we had to stop renting the handguns at this time. We'll get back to that once all the restrictions are lifted. And once they are, and before, the good thing about being able to rent a firearm is that you get to try out a gun before, and for very little money, versus going out and buying a gun that you've never fired, never used, never held in your hand and shot, and find out after you've spent $400, $500, $600 that, hey, I don't like this gun, and then you either try to sell it back to somebody else, so you wind up taking a loss, or you just put it on the shelf and you never use it. So at that point, it's wasted money, and you're getting no benefit out of it because you don't like the feel of it. It's, for some women may buy their husband may buy them a handgun that the husband likes, and the wife hates it because it hurts her hand to shoot it. There's too much recoil. She's never going to shoot it. She's never going to be proficient with that firearm because she can't stand to shoot it. So it doesn't do her any good to have it. I'd rather see someone, if you're going to carry for self-defense, get a firearm that you can stay proficient with, because if you're not proficient when the day comes, if the day ever comes that you need to use that firearm, and you pull it out, and if you haven't shot it in 2 or 3 or 4 years and haven't stayed up on the training, you're more of a hazard to yourself and others than you are a help to yourself. So if you're going to get into where you're going to carry, you've got to stay proficient with whatever you decide to carry.
That's true. That's why it's good to go to the Marksman for the Range as well. They're located at 520 Industrial Park Drive in Newport News. Great staff, convenient hours. Our good buddy BJ is no longer there. How's BJ doing? Because he had a lot of followers that came by to see him.
Yeah, he's doing very well in his new career. He's in the computer networking thing, so he's that's what he's got 2 degrees in, and so he enjoys that.
Very good. Talk about the hours, George, and of course, you guys are very big on Facebook for updates for the loyal customers.
Yeah, our hours had shortened up just a little bit with this COVID thing, but typically our public opening is from 10 a.m. Till 6 p.m. and that runs Monday through Saturday, and we're closed now on Sundays, and that's what we're trying to get geared back up to get our concealed classes going. But because of all the legal changes, we've got a lot of rewriting and stuff to do and research to make sure that our class meets our requirements, that we're telling you the right stuff. So I don't know how long that's going to take yet, but we do try to keep everyone as posted as much as we can on our Facebook page. Because that can be changed very rapidly. A lot of people complain about our website. Well, the website takes a little bit more effort to make changes and get it uploaded and make sure it all works, to where the Facebook page can be pretty much instantaneous. If there's a change that needs to be made to hours or costs or class schedules or anything like that, and with all these restrictions that we have, depending on what phase of the recovery, if you will, if we can even call it that. But whatever the governor dictates, that's what we have to abide by. And so we'll typically post that on our Facebook page as soon as a change occurs.
Last thing, George, whether it's crime or, your own house or whatever, your store, your property, police officers, everything is recorded now by camera. Of course, I think that's very important because this civil unrest going on or lawsuits or everything, I mean, you have to have something to back something up, and cameras never lie.
Well, that's very true, as long as they're working. And so that then becomes an issue if it's a period of power failure, especially if it's extended, then you have no generator to where they are powered down. But yes, you're right. On a daily basis, day in, day out, that's the best thing that you can have. That is a very, very good and wise investment for anyone to make.
George, I want to get your opinion too, because you've been around several states, worked several careers. For the people that can afford a full generator that will take care of AC and, of course, lights, do you recommend them buying one? Because it's very difficult to be without power. And just having your lights turned on, even if you have a generator, that doesn't help you when it's 100 degrees or 20 degrees outside.
Well,
your thoughts?
That's true, but you have to you got to pick your poison, so to speak. You can get you a 5,000 watt or 5 kW generator, and that will obviously get your lights. That'll run a microwave. If you're on a well, that will power a water pump. So you can get the basics, and you can put some fans in. So it's not air conditioning, but it's blowing air. It cools. You can put a pan of water in front of it. You can get some evaporative, cooling. So there's a couple of things you can do. And we're all used to air conditioning now. But I grew up very poor in West Virginia. Yeah, we never had air conditioning, and it gets pretty hot, in the summertime. But the only thing we had was a fan, and sometimes. You're laying there until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, almost sweating with the fan blowing on you. Waiting for the night air. All the windows opened up, waiting for the night air to get cool enough to where you can go to sleep and get a few hours of sleep. So when I survived all that, as did the rest of my family. So when we look at all the great things that we have in this modern age. Now it starts costing a little bit. You can get a whole house generator. You can get a 13,000 watt, 13 kW, and have it hooked up, and it will run a single. Now, if you got like a 2-zone upstairs, downstairs, you're not going to be upstairs and downstairs at the same time. So if you're sleeping upstairs during the daytime, I would run the air conditioning in the downstairs area, and then at nighttime when you go to bed, turn the air that pump on or the AC unit on for the upstairs, and after you shut the downstairs off. So you can kind of do that and make it work without going to like a 30 kW generator to power everything in the whole house all at the same time. So you can do your research and see what kind of loads that you really require, and then size the generator according to that need.
George, all the best to you, my friend. Thank you for the great information about the Marksman and Newport News on Industrial Park Drive. And leave it on a lighter note, there's nothing like mountain air, whether you're in Virginia or West Virginia. It all helps cool things off physically and emotionally. All the best, George.
All right, Greg, you take care.
All right, that's George McClain. Yes, thank you. Always a pleasure talking to George McClain right here on Sports Scene from the Marksman. We'll continue after these messages.
What tees you off? Presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
What tees me off? Hurricanes, wind, extra loud noise.
Oh, noises are difficult, especially when you're concerned about the house.
How some in the neighborhood can have power across the street and some don't.
Oh, that's always frustrating because I've seen a lot of posts lately the last couple of days, and people are concerned, like, why does somebody across the street have power and I don't?
I get it. We all have to wear masks to save lives, but masks have a lot of toxicity as well to them when you put them around your mouth.
Oh, yes. It's hard to breathe sometimes or fogs up your glasses.
Sports teams that have to change names, really? They're not. Nobody's even asking them to change names except for a few.
It's going to be very confusing.
It really is. The conventions, they're a big part of TV in the summer voting. I always like to watch it with my mom and dad growing up as a kid, whether it's Democratic or Republican. Let's try to keep it somewhat normal and be polite to each other.
That's true. That's true. We're going to miss some of the pomp and circumstance, I think.
This will never be justified. Portion control or lack of at restaurants during good or bad times, because men and women eat totally different.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that.
All right.
I did. Well, I have actually. My husband will say, "Why did you get a bigger portion than I did?"
All right. This is especially true at restaurants. They try to make it up for higher prices on tea and soda.
Oh, that's true. That's true too.
Too much information on social media.
Oh yes. Don't tell us your whole story.
And that's what teased me off. And I want to thank our guests today, Mike Corey and George McClain. Hope everybody's being safe and recovered from the hurricane. And, of course, remember, it's hurricane season, August and September still. We have a long way to go. Just be safe every day. So thanks for listening to Sports Scene. For more, go to gjbtv.com. Click the YouTube link at Greg Bick on Twitter. That's GREGBIC. For Colleen, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. We'll talk to you soon. On the next episode of Sports Scene, we'll discuss how football will happen in 2020. Obviously, in Virginia, there's no high school football in 2020. We'll see how college and NFL shapes out this fall on the next edition of Sports Scene.
When it comes to automobile service in Hampton Roads, Fink's Car Care is the destination locals have counted on for decades. Family owned and operated, they specialize in transmission service, oil changes, state inspection, radiator service, tires, alignments, and showcase Win Automotive products. Fink's does it all. Military and senior discounts are available. Like them on Facebook and visit them at 2711 Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 485-5555 today.
The Newport News Greek Festival will take place August 28th through August 30th on the grounds of Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church. The entire event will be a drive-through edition, and we appreciate your continued support. Eat, drink, and celebrate authentic Greek culture on the peninsula. Celebrating a taste of Greece in Newport News with our drive-through. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org. Opa! 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 Opa!